is Gemma, and welcome to my channel. Today, in this video, I will be continuing Remnants of Filth, Volume 1 by Meatbun, also published by 7Seas. Anyway, we stopped at chapter 18 of page 206. So we'll be beginning on page 207, chapter 19, called Wait on You. I'm actually very excited because it's been a while since I read this. I've just been a bit busy. I didn't want to wait this long, but things happened. But anyway, let's get started. Gumong started up. I already messed up. Gumong stared at the person pacing in front of him, hesitant and wary, lost and confused. At length, he stepped forward and cautiously touched the side of Moshi's neck. Interesting way to get someone's attention like that. Moshi jerked his head up, glaring at him through slight, reddened eyes. His breathing was roughened by intense emotion, his lapels gaping slightly. The lotus sigil on his neck rose and fell, throbbing vividly at the artery. While he obviously hadn't undergone demonic tempering in his current state, he was no different from a beast. "What are you doing?" Gumong said in confusion. "But I don't know you. Why would you have one too?" "'Cause you do know each other. You just don't remember." To Moshi, this question was a violent stab. His hatred and pride made him cruel. He slapped Gumong's hand away, snapping. "I never needed something like this. You're the one who forced me." Gumong looked up at this man, who was on the verge of breaking down. In that dim woodshed, where no one else could see him, in front of Gumong, the grown Shiejun was as volatile as the youth he had once been. "Hasn't it always been you?" Moshi's chest throbbed, and even the tails of his eyes were red. "It was you who provoked me, you who came to find me. For better, for worse, for richer, or poor, no matter what the future held, it was you who came to my side with a smile." I'm sorry, when it started with the "for better or worse" thing, it sounded almost like a marriage thing. So I was like, where's this going? That there could be friendship unconcerned with any other pressures. That someone could be good to another person regardless of whether that good would be reciprocated. That kindness, sincerity, fiercely unconditional loyalty truly existed. It was you who pulled me back from the edge. Moshi really had lost his mind. He had held back and waited for so long, waiting for this day, all to ask Gumong for the truth. He'd wanted nothing more than to see what exactly was in Gumong's heart. So why had he been denied even the slightest deliverance? He had been deceived, abandoned, and betrayed. "I like you." A lie. "I'm willing." A lie. "I won't leave you." A lie. Nothing remained but these lotus tattoos on their neck, proof of the things they had shared in the past, proof of how foolish, unreserved, fearless, and unhesitating Moshi's sincerity had once been. Proof that there had been once been a youth who hadn't known the trap that was love. So stupid that he wanted to dig out and offer up his own heart. So stupid that he'd believe all those promises could come true. So stupid that it still hurt, even now. These overwhelming, intense emotions rang in Moshi's ears, and the world swam before his eyes. As Moshi looked at the gumong in front of him, dizzy, his vision steadily darkened at the edge and grew blurry. Is he passing out, or is he about to cry? He seemed to see the youth who had once stood on the deck of a ship, so close yet so far, so familiar yet so unknown. Standing with his back to the sea wind, black robes draped over his shoulders, bandages wrapped around his waist, and a crooked ribbon tied around over his brow. He sneered, "I really will kill you." Moshi grabbed Gumong and pressed him against the wall, lost between past and present. "Yes, I knew you would kill me. Haven't you already stabbed me once?" He inhaled. "Why didn't you stab me a second time at Wangshu Manor?" He knew he was going mad. He knew he was being absurd. But how could someone who had always rigidly controlled themselves hold back once they exploded? Yeah, he's crashing out. "It was you who gave me faith, and in the end, you were the reason I lost that faith. You said I didn't care about anything, that I had nothing to lose, so it didn't matter." Moshi's voice softened as he choked up. "But when you stepped on that path, do you know what I lost?" Sorry, I had a call, so, anyway, do you know what I lost? Moshi quickly turned aside, lowering his head. Only after recovering for several seconds did he speak again. His words clipped with hatred. "I was never the person who didn't care. It was you. I wish I could—" He stopped. Gumong had reached out, carefully and hesitantly cupping Moshi's face. Don't be so sad," he said. Oh, that's actually really sweet for a guy who doesn't have his memories. But, is this gonna go well? Cause, I don't think Moshi will take this very well. So why is my eyes doing that? How do I fix that? It's so annoying. Anyway. Moshi whipped around, meeting those limpid blue eyes that looked like they had been washed with seawater. "I don't know what you're talking about. But can you not be so sad?" Gumong said slowly, with difficulty, pausing clumsily on each word. "Don't be sad." It was as if a molten sword had been plunged into water. Steam hissed as the water boiled, but that crazed heat was instantly quenched. Moshi's blood gradually cooled, and reason seeped back in. Gumong gazed at him. "Oh, you're not a bad person," he said slowly, cautiously, lashes trembling. "I don't know you, but you're not bad. So don't be sad." Oh my god. That is very sweet, but also hilarious. Did they purposely try to make it rhyme? But you're not bad. Don't be sad. Okay, yeah, what the fuck? Swear to God, if I get another call, man. Well, this one at least was actually important, not spam. My hospital. Anyway, I got therapy tomorrow. Moshi felt profoundly unwell. Hatred, frustration, ire, and something else he couldn't place. All of it coursed through his heart. He looked at Gumong's familiar features and at those unfamiliar blue eyes. This same man had once gazed at him with deep black eyes, smiling, and called to him, "Moshi, it's fine. Don't be sad. No matter what, we'll always be together. No matter how hard things get, I'll pull through. Come on, let's go home." Moshi was suddenly overcome with exhaustion. He closed his eyes, near drained, like a dying eagle using the last of its energy to feign strength. I'm not sad. It was obvious that Moshi hated Gumong deeply. I wouldn't say that he hated him deeply, but yeah, there's conflicting feelings. Hated that he couldn't choke him to death with his own hands, see if he could keep escaping, keep lying, keep leaving him then. Hated that he couldn't watch with his own eyes as Gumong's skull shattered and his blood sprayed out, at last bringing an end to all this hope and despair. Yeah, I don't think he will be able to get himself to do that, though. He wouldn't be able to. Instead, as Gumong carefully tried to console him, as Gumong asked him not to be so sad, Moshi found himself thinking of a scene from many, many years ago, when Gumong had sat by a blood-splattered trench and summoned his ridiculous little holy weapon, the suona that, after defecting, he had never used again, and played a truly maddening tune. It had been such a crappy song. Everyone who had heard it had covered their ears and cursed, demanding to know what the hell he was playing. Was he a wailer at a funeral? Gumong had merely flung his head back and laughed, then continued to puff out his cheeks and play Phoenix Homage. Which, there's a footnote. A cheerful folk piece by YUWU. YUWU? He had played so soulfully, so seriously. Gumong? But when Moshi had glanced at Gumong out of the corner of his eyes, he'd seen that his eyes were wet. Gumong cared. He had lied and dissembled for so many years, but Moshi knew he cared. So Moshi wanted to believe him, to believe that those things in their past weren't all lies. For this possibility, he was willing to wait. Wait, like present time? Never mind, Moshi said after a time. If you can't remember, then never mind. And finally, in a choked tone, I misspoke. After another interval, Moshi stood up and carefully fixed his collar, smoothing every last wrinkle to hide that lotus tattoo on his neck. No matter if you've truly forgotten or if you're pretending, I'll wait. I'll wait for a conclusion. I'll wait for you to tell me the truth. The rims of his eyes and the tip of his nose were yet red. You'll wait for me? Gumong asked blankly. Yes. I'll wait for you. No matter what, I'll wait for you. I'll keep waiting, no matter how long it takes. But remember this, if you lie to me again, if I find out you're still lying to me, I won't be stabbed in the same place twice. I will make you live a life worse than death. It was very quiet in the shed. Gumong lowered his head to think for a while before he spoke again, confused. What's a life worse than death? I can think of a few things for that. That bewildered and innocent tone drew Moshi's wintry stare. but with the red wetness lingering at the corner of his eyes, his glare seemed less sharp than usual. Guqin felt that the gaze and looked up at him. He knew this man had broken his sword array and stripped him of his sharp claws. Yet, unlike all the others, he hadn't bitten through Guqin's neck or degraded him. So he asked, cautiously, "Does a life worse than death mean you'll spare me?" Silence. "No." "But you didn't kill or beat me." "I don't beat imbeciles." Guqin didn't say anything, but he continued to look at him. Then he moved closer, sniffing. That's his response? Okay. Moshi held a palm up to the tip of Guqin's nose to stop him. "What are you doing?" Guqin licked his dry lips. "Remembering you," he said softly. Oh my god. Okay. Remembering him? Remembering what? His face? His scent? Or that he was someone who didn't beat imbeciles? But Guqin didn't explain. He more or less lowered his guard. Or perhaps it was less that he wanted to lower it, and more that his long starvation had stripped him of his strength. He had no longer cared about Moshi. In any case, the sharp fangs that were his last remaining defense were useless against this opponent. Oh, what if he's sniffing him because, right, he kinda might think he's still a wolf, is what they were saying earlier, right? So what if he was sniffing him for, like, I don't know, like, that kind of thing like animals do? Guqin slowly ducked his head and curled up in his corner. Those lupin eyes glimmered in the darkness and blinked tiredly. "Thank you," he said. "You're the only one willing to give me a life worse than death." That's a conflicting sentence. For I have conflicting emotions that I can't really describe with that sentence. Jesus. Anyway. These words fell to the bottom of Moshi's heart. Caught off guard, his chest ached. He stood there for a while, looking around the dilapidated little shack, looking at the little mattress with its exposed cotton stuffing and the silhouette curled up in the corner. Moshi closed his eyes tightly, long lashes fluttering. In the end, he left and got some flatbread and hot soup. He held them out to this man who was on the verge of starvation. "Eat." Guqin quickly came over to sniff the food. He swallowed thickly at the scent before hesitating. "But you didn't bed." The moment he said the word bed, Moshi's expression turned furious. He wordlessly smacked a flatbread right onto Guqin's face. When Moshi returned to his manor, it was already the dead of night. "My lord, you're back. What happened to you?" "I'm fine." "But why are your eyes red?" Flying sand. Moshi turned his back on Liyue and walked to his bedroom without looking back. He'd spent hours at Danmei Pavilion, but he wasn't remotely sleepy. After tossing and turning in bed to no avail, he draped a black fur coat over his shoulders and stood in the courtyard cloister. Looking at the moonlight from the hall, Guqin's sickly face was still flashing before his eyes, impossible to escape. Was his mind actually broken? When the Lao Kingdom sent him back, had it really been for peace talks, or did they have some other motive? Moshi racked his brain, trying to piece everything together, but no matter how he tried, his train of thought still stopped on those lupin blue eyes. "Thank you. You're the only one willing to give me a life worse than death." Moshi closed his eyes. It was a long time before he went to Danmei Pavilion to see Guqin again. Firstly, his work started to pile up, and secondly, Danmei Pavilion remained Mulanglian's territory. It would be unwise to go there often. True. I hate Mulanglian. Only once, when Moshi was leading Imperial Guards on patrol within the city, did he glance at Danmei Pavilion's courtyard. Guqin was once again squatting there, looking at the fish, the dirtied black dog at his side. Everything was as it had been. In the blink of an eye, the end of the month arrived. Outside the Bureau of Military Affairs, the first heavy snow of the year fell. It was an unnaturally cold evening, and most of the members of the Bureau had left early to enjoy their time at home. Some young cultivators had taken the opportunity to go back to the city to drink and feast before nightfall. Moshi was preparing to return to his own manor when he heard a timid voice speak in front of his desk. "Shiajun, may I ask a favor?" And that's the end of chapter 19, page 214. Anyway, now we are on chapter 120, chapter 20, called Guqin Goes Berserk. The woman standing before him was a very low-ranked cultivator of the Bureau, roughly 40 years old and usually the quiet sort. Somewhat surprised, Moshi asked, "What is it?" I got a message from the academy a moment ago, saying that Chung Fengjun's daughter hit my daughter and injured her. I'm worried and want to go check on her, but I still have a number of files left to sort." As she spoke, he couldn't hide the embarrassment and anxiety on her face. I've asked many colleagues already, but they're all busy. Even Yu Gongzai had plans to go drink at this Eastern market with his friends, so I wanted to see if I could trouble you. Moshi frowned slightly. He wouldn't mind helping her, but this Chung Fengjun, who had laid low for many years, seemed to be popping up a little too often these days. Is she badly hurt? They said it was a sprained arm, the cultivator said. Even though it's not serious, she's been crying non-stop. The elders don't know what to do. Then you may go. Be careful on the road. The cultivator hadn't placed particularly high hopes on this icy commander. She certainly hadn't expected that after asking so many people, the one to help her would be him. She does not give him a lot of credit, huh? She couldn't help but widen her eyes, and a joyous flush appeared on her face. Many thanks to Shiejun. The baskets for the files are all over there. As she grew excited, she began stammering. I've already sorted most of them out. I'm terribly sorry about the inconveniencing you with something so trivial. It's no bother. Your daughter comes first. The cultivator thanked him a few more times before rushing off, leaving Moshi by himself in the Bureau of Military Affairs to organize those old scrolls. Moshi was high-ranking and powerful, so he never bothered with trivial tasks like these. Only after he began did he find that it wasn't so easy. There were many files, all of which needed to be organized by year and level. The most important ones had to be sealed with a talisman, while the useless ones were to be destroyed. Finding himself a novice at this task, he worked very slowly. By the time the files were mostly sorted, it was already quite late. One last box remained, and the dusty chest held the records of a past Bureau cultivator. When Moshi glanced at it, he saw a familiar name on the side. He stood still for a moment, his eyes downcast, but he couldn't resist taking out Guqin's file. He brushed away the accumulated dust and spread out the pages with care. A great deal of information was contained within. Guqin's family background, slave registry, holy weapon, favored methods of attack. Moshi read it over, flipping page after page as he stood there unmoving, until he had finished the whole stack from beginning to end. A sheet of silk paper fell out from the rest of the files. The yellow silk was emblazoned with the dignified words, Cultivation Academy Ethics Examination, 33rd year. Moshi was stunned. Was this Gumong's final exam for the Cultivation Academy? Ooh, he gonna look at it? Sure enough, he looked farther down and saw the familiar handwriting, wretchedly messy. The contents rendered Moshi speechless. Cultivation Academy Ethics Examination, 33rd year. Let's see something real quick. Answering Cultivator Gumong. One ought to reflect upon oneself every day. Which has a footnote, a quote from the first book of Analects of Confucius. The disciple is asked to reflect upon their deficiencies and answer honestly. A. Personally, I have a money deficiency. Q. When cultivators on Chonghua exercise demons, what 3 things must they avoid? How should they be avoided? A. 1. Beware a client who lacks money. 2. Beware a client who runs away. 3. Beware a client who's running away with the money. How to avoid? It's best to demand a deposit before getting rid of the demons. Never work on credit. Huh, money's a huge thing to him, huh? Even now with his memories gone. Q. Please list the 3 kindest and most benevolent elders Chonghua has known since its founding. A. No idea, but the 3 most shameless are... An enraged examiner had burned 3 holes into whatever followed, so Moshi would never learn exactly what names Gumong had written. I'm kind of curious, though. Moshi examined that answer sheet, seeing youth in every brushstroke. He was both amused and depressed, and he stared at it in a daze for a long while until a clamor rose outside. No! Help! Something's happened at Laomei Pavilion! Laomei Pavilion? Moshi was alarmed. Gumong! The commotion was sudden, and by the time he rushed outside, only 24 soldiers on night patrol had yet arrived. I'm gonna guess, because of the chapter name, what's happening there is because of Gumong. He's crashing out. They had arranged themselves into a demon-hunting formation and were now staring at Laomei Pavilion's main gate, which was on the verge of crumbling. The soldiers were covered in cuts and bruises, and the limestone beneath their feet had been crushed to rubble. The surrounding streets fared no better. A number of shops had collapsed. Rounding streets fared no better. Oh wait, no. Their tiles and bricks scattered and their splintered wood smoking. The cultivator at the formation's head shouted when he spied Moshi. General Mo! What happened? It's Gumong. A burst of extraordinarily potent malevolent chi exploded from his body. He's gone berserk. Where is he? We only injured him. He's gone and hidden with Laomei Pavilion. He doesn't dare rush out to fight again, but neither do we. We're waiting for reinforcements. Moshi looked toward the creaking gate. Just as he'd been told, a figure was standing in the shadows, eyes glowing faintly in the darkness. Gumong was clearly watching every movement on the street outside. Moshi stared at those lupine eyes. Isn't his spiritual core shattered? How could he suddenly lash out like this? We don't know. The head cultivator looked like he was about to cry. His martial abilities make no damn sense. We'd been so much better off if we'd chopped off his head at the start instead of letting him bide his time in Danmei Pavilion. He has to be faking it, another cultivator said angrily. How could his core be broken, his mind damaged? Did that man we saw seem weak and helpless to you? Exactly. If he really doesn't have spiritual energy, then who gave me this cut on my face? Why did His Imperial Majesty let this dog live? They were still voicing their impassioned objections when they heard the thunder of approaching hoofbeats. Moshi turned to see a procession of 12 elite mounted cultivators galloping through the light snow, escorting a carriage engraved in gold. Wangshijun has arrived. The curtain in the gilded carriage was pushed aside, as servants prepared a stepping stool, gauze umbrella, and incense burner. Only after a lengthy stretch did a thin, sickly face drift out from within. Oh, how lively. Mulong Lian noticed Moshi at once. Xie Jun's here too. Moshi didn't plan to waste more breath than necessary on him. Yeah, because he don't need your energy. Something's happened to Gumong. Mulong Lian scoffed. I am, of course, aware. That's exactly why I've come. As he spoke, he took a few deliberate steps forward and came to a stop near the red lacquered door of the pavilion. He soundlessly recited an incantation, and blue light blazed from his left hand. Go, seize the beast. Under his command, the blue light transformed into chains and shot toward the door. The door, fully 5 inches thick, was pierced straight through and fell with a thunderous boom. Gumong was caught, unawares in his hiding spot behind the door and was instantly immobilized by the chains of blue light. Return, Mulong Lian shouted. The chains tightened mercilessly. Gumong crumbled to his knees amid the sound of clanking metal and was swiftly dragged before Mulong Lian. No more than a mad dog getting up to no good. A Satan slipper embroidered with lunar patterns stretched out and stepped on. Sorry, I need to change the page. Gumong's face. What need is there for General Mo now? Mulong Lian asked lightly. Gumong's eyes were frantic as he struggled against his bonds. His entire body overflowed with spiritual energy, and his teeth gnashed. Let go of me. Let go of you? Mulong Lian curled his lips. Since when do you give me orders? As he spoke, he tightened his fist. The chains retracted into his hands with a clink, dragging Gumong up from the ground as well. Mulong Lian grabbed his hair, forcing Gumong to look at him. I do not like this guy. Two unnaturally pale faces met, their noses almost brushing. I am the master, and you are the slave, Mulong Lian said. General Gu, why General Gu, why has a month of starvation still not taught you your lesson? Let go, Gumong choked. A nearly crazed look flashed across Mulong Lian's elegant face. Just as he was about to speak, he saw Gumong narrow his eyes. Mulong Lian's heart pounded. Reacting with a cultivator's instinctive wariness, he immediately released Gumong and retreated. Ooh, did Gumong scare him off? That'd be nice. At almost the same time, the brilliant sword array exploded once more from Gumong's body. The ray this time was far more stunning than before. Oh, is this why Mulong Lian ran off? Every sword of light was taller than a man. The one closest to Mulong Lian swiftly broke free from the array and flew directly towards Mulong Lian's heart. "My lord, be careful! Wangshu-jun, watch out!" The attendants shouted in shock. "Nah, don't help him. He deserves it." But though Mulong Lian's martial arts were poor, he was still vigilant. He flung up a hand, and a wall of ice appeared in front of him. The sword hit the wall, shattering the ice into powdery crystals as Mulong Lian ducked to the side. It was enough to dampen the force of the blow. The sword of light tore a hole in his robe rather than his flesh. Oh, that's sad. Mulong Lian landed on the ground, staring at Gumong. Gumong was panting as he yanked Mulong Lian's chains off his neck and tossed them, rattling to the ground. Then he raised his head, swallowing as his hands curled into fists. A torrential, unceasing flow of spiritual energy burst from beneath his feet, so powerful that the weaker cultivators in the formation at once collapsed to their knees, coughing blood. The head cultivator paled. "He's about to go berserk again. Hurry, stop him! Back in formation! Prepare to fight!" But the spiritual energy surrounding Gumong was already too great. Not only were the cultivators physically unable to approach, their spells couldn't breach the defense put up by those swords of light. You know, I thought they said that his spiritual energy was taken away. I don't know. Just as Gumong was about to lose control again, a glowing blue talisman appeared in Mulong Lian's hands. He tossed it out with a cry, "Water demon, rise!" A chill wind blew, and the shapes of over a dozen blue demons crawled up from the ground, screaming as they rushed Gumong's sword array. One water demon was sliced to shreds by the sword of light, only to be replaced by another, surging forth one after the next without end. In this way, though they struggled mightily, they steadily pressed near to Gumong. "Take him down!" Mulong Lian shouted sharply. The water demon rose with a shriek, sweeping up wind and snow as they sped towards Gumong. Yet, with a single gesture, Gumong sent a sword glare exploding from his fingertips that demolished a dozen of the apparitions at once. He lifted his head, those blue eyes staring menacingly at Mulong Lian. Then he pelted towards him through the falling snow. You know, I'm just gonna move me just like right there. Shocked, Mulong Lian instinctively took a step backwards. "What are you doing?" he demanded. Gumong didn't answer, but the electric blue phantom image of a lone wolf suddenly soared up from his back. Whoa. I'm guessing this has to do with the thing that he thinks he's a wolf for. I'm trying to picture that in my head. Gumong. At the sight of that wolf, Moshi roared, "Mulong Lian, get back!" Mulong Lian wished to do just that, but a malevolent chi he had never felt before was pinning him in place, rendering him immobile. Gumong came even closer, step by step through the snow. As Mulong Lian stared at him, he found himself thinking that Gumong was like a wolf king, about to deal a killing blow. His hair stood on end before that aura of brutal cold. "Gumong, how dare you? What do you think you're doing? How dare you?" Of course, Gumong dared. He lifted a hand and several blazing fireballs ignited in his palm to hurtle straight at Mulong Lian. He deserves it. A series of explosions rocked the street as each fireball smashed deep holes into the earth. Let me guess, also missing Mulong Lian. I mean, yeah, he deserves it, but I hope it doesn't, because then it'll just reflect badly on him instead, and then worse things happen. Broken bricks went flying, leaving the cultivators no choice but to ride the winds and dart into the air to escape his attack. Mulong Lian's expression became even more sinister. His face, ordinarily so pallid and sickly from his dependence on ephemera, flushed with a faint but furious red. He stood in midair, jaw clenched. "You unrepented bastard!" Gumong reacted to exactly none of Mulong Lian's words. With a wave of his hand, flames appeared at all 5 of his fingertips. "I hit you the first time because you stepped on my head." Mulong Lian stared. "I'm hitting you now because I'm hungry." I love that. I love that. Good reason. You know what? Good reason. "Because you're what?" Mulong Lian asked incredulously. "You didn't let me eat," Gumong said slowly, each word sonorous. "I am hungry." Flames blazed to life as Gumong waved a hand to cast a spell. Mulong Lian's pupils shrank. In that critical moment, faster than anybody could speak, a sandy barrier burst up from the soil of the road. The ensuing wind bowled Mulong Lian over as the barrier blocked at the oh my god. As the I am going to say that again. The ensuing wind bowled Mulong Lian over as the barrier blocked the onslaught of Gumong's fire. Mulong Lian crawled pathetically upright and coughed, ferociously wiping at the dust on his face. He turned to see Moshi standing nearby, controlling the protective barrier. Mulong Lian stared at him and brushed the dirt from his clothes. "You knocked me out on purpose," he snarled. "Get behind me. You're no match for him." Mulong Lian's thin lips parted. He was about to reply when he heard an ominous crack. The thick, protective wall was crumbling. Amid the falling dirt and sand, a dagger wreathed in black mist broke through the final translucent edge of the barrier and shot directly toward Mulong Lian. That dagger. Moshi's blood ran cold. That was the same demonic weapon Gumong had summoned on the Dongting warship. The Lao Kingdom dagger he'd shoved between Moshi's ribs. But demonic weapons and holy weapons had a crucial similarity. They both required an incantation to be summoned. Gumong had lost his memories, so he should have also lost the ability to summon this vicious blade. And besides, his spiritual core had been destroyed. So how? Yeah, that's what I was asking earlier. I thought so. Yeah, his spiritual core was destroyed, so how is he doing this? Like, seriously. Moshi had no time to finish the thought. The dagger struck through his barrier like lightning. But Moshi knew Gumong's maneuvers. He turned to shout at Mulong Lian, "Duck left!" Startled, Mulong Lian hesitated. That dagger was aimed at his left, so all senses told him to dodge right. Why was Moshi telling him to go left? You know, I don't know. I would trust Moshi on this. The momentary hesitation cost him his chance. The dagger was indeed shooting towards his left. But at the last second, it streaked right like a cunning snake. In the instant before the dagger pierced Mulong Lian's flesh, Moshi darted forward and shoved him out of the way. The dagger sank into his abdomen. Blood spurted into the air. The crowd paled. Xie-jun! Xie-jun! Are you alright?" No, he's not alright." Moshi couldn't hear any of the words. He panted, his hands landing on the dagger's hilt. He yanked it out in one powerful tug, and scarlet splattered onto the ground. Moshi stared into the distance, eyes dark, and amid the flying sound and falling stones, Guqin still emanated powerful spiritual energy. Between Guqin's bloodthirsty expression and the blade dripping in his hand, a wind from many years ago seemed to blow once more into Moshi's ears. Back then, Guqin had told him, as a general, as a soldier, and as a person, you can't be too attached to past affections. We were brothers once. This is the last thing I can teach you. Of course, he picks this moment to remember that, of course. Moshi suddenly couldn't hold back his desire to laugh. In the end, his hatred had only deepened. Ha! He'd already risked death at Guqin's hand. What was this petty wound compared to that? Moshi gritted his teeth and straightened to his full height. Seething crimson poured from his palms as he stalked towards Guqin. Guqin, surely sensing the malice rising off him. As Moshi drew near, the spiritual energy swirling around Guqin exploded once more, but Moshi merely brushed away Guqin's array of light with a wave of his palm, shattering it with a crash. The cultivators fighting at his sides were astonished. That's beyond terrifying. The Mo clan bloodline is genuinely insane. One of them even started mumbling, if she had been such a good fighter, how did Guqin ever manage to stab him through the heart? Did you forget they used to trust each other a lot? Did nobody know this? Did everybody seriously think they hated each other the whole time? Mulan Lian couldn't help but narrow his eyes when he heard that last. He watched the two men face each other with matched hostility, his gaze calculating. Guqin made to attack again, but before he could form another sigil, he heard Moshi snap, Shuairen Lian? Shuairen? Come. I don't think I said that right. Moshi's brow creased, his expression predatory. Guqin, he shouted, did you really think I would never raise a hand to you? As Moshi's voice rang out, Shuairen shot towards Guqin like lightning in a gale. The snake whip tore through the snow, sending sparks in all directions as it struck down without mercy. Guqin couldn't dodge in time. The lash bit into his shoulder and drew blood at first touch. Guqin's violence-addled mind seemed to clear at the sight of his injury. He shook his head and involuntarily took a step back. Stop right there. Where could you possibly run? A hoarse voice rasped, and Shuairen thoroughly bound Guqin. Moshi took his palm off his own wound and wrapped his bloodied fingers around Guqin's neck. I swear to God, if I keep messing up words, I'm gonna start smacking myself. I'm not really gonna do that, but, like, come on! How many words do I have to mess up? Jesus. Anyway. Your mind isn't broken at all, Moshi said furiously. You can still summon that demonic weapon. You remember its incantation, and you fight like you used to. You clearly remember everything. Choking, Guqin couldn't answer. Honestly, I don't think he can remember. Maybe it's like almost similar to muscle memory. His pale face gradually flushed red, his fingers scrambling for a purchase on Moshi's hand. Moshi ground his teeth. Speak! Why did you come back to Changhua? Guqin lifted his arms, hands trembling as he covered the fingers Moshi had wrapped around his neck. Blue eyes met black. Those black eyes held endless flames, but the blue were wet. Guqin couldn't breathe. It was as if he would be strangled to death, just like this. Moshi was infuriated. Speak! Well, Moshi, not to, like, I don't know, make you worse, but, for him to speak, I think you need to remove your hands. The cultivators surrounding them were too terrified to cut in, fear written clear across their face. At that moment, the pounding of hoofbeats sounded in the street. "Shiajun, have mercy!" someone cried. "Whoa!" A palace official had rushed into the scene. She reined in her spirit horse and leapt off its back to kneel in the snow, her breath fogging white in the freezing air. "Shiajun, please, have mercy!" She performed obeisance to both Moshi and Mulonglian. "Wangshijun, Shiajun, His Imperial Majesty has learned of this matter and sent this subordinate to arrest the criminal Gumong." Wasn't he already arrested technically? At that moment, Moshi was blind and deaf to any and everything around him. It was thus Mulonglian who turned to ask, "What do you mean? Where would you take him?" Honestly, I don't know why Mulonglian cares, considering he hates the guy and he's just gonna get imprisoned somewhere else. "Wangshujun, His Imperial Majesty has informed me to take Gumong to the palace. Upon hearing of this incident, His Imperial Majesty summoned the best doctors in the nation. Right now, they're waiting in the palace to once again examine Gumong." She glanced at Moshi's hand wrapped around Gumong's neck and hastily added, "This matter is of grave importance. You must not execute him without the Emperor's leave." And that was the end of chapter 20 on page 228. But yeah, Jesus, God. I'm actually curious what Gumong would have said if he would just stop choking him to death. Jesus. How many pages do we have left? I'm on 228. 384. So definitely more than 100. Okay. Okay. Chapter 21. Have mercy. Moshi didn't spare her a glance. He continued to stare murderously into Gumong's eyes. The official knew Moshi's temper was fierce, and that he was, unpredictably, impulsive. So she didn't hold back a cry of warning. "Shiejun!" Still, Moshi said nothing, as if he was enduring something with all his might. Only after several long moments did he loosen his grip, letting Gumong fall to his knees in the snow. He returned to look at the wind-blown flurries, oh my god, and his vision gradually blurred. The official let out a small breath of relief and made obeisance once more. "Many thanks for Shiejun's understanding." Moshi stood quiet in the heavy snow, his back to the crowd and his hands clasped behind him. But as the official moved to help Gumong up from where he had fallen in the snow, Moshi turned his face, his voice low and muted. "Hold it. What is Shiejun's command?" "I will go as well," Moshi said. Startled, the official replied, "Powerful cultivators cannot be present in the numbers during Shenong's Terrence examination. In case of fluctuations in the flow of spiritual energy, even if you come, you'll have to wait outside the hall." I'm actually glad he's going, because maybe we'll get some insight on what the examination includes and what we'll learn from this. Some, since he's not allowed in there. Very well. Moshi still hadn't turned, his tone terrifyingly stiff, each syllable bitten out. "Then I will wait outside." Any farther attempt to dissuade him would have been inappropriate for someone of her station. Thus, the official took Gumong back toward the palace of Chonghua, Moshi following in their wake. Approximately 2 hours later, snowy owls were sent out from the palace, urgently summoning every important official to come forth and confer. It was the dead of night, and this imperial order had pulled almost every high-ranking member of the court from their beds. Elder Yu of Chengshan Terrace had the worst luck. This asshole just happened to be enjoying the pleasures of a brothel in the northern quarter of the city, and right at the crucial moment, a fat bird crashed through the window screen. Nice. Hoot! An order from His Imperial Majesty! An order from His Imperial Majesty! It shrieked. Every high-ranked official is requested to come to the throne room at once to discuss Gumong's case. Elder Yu promptly wilted. Wasn't his case dealt with ages ago? He cursed as he dressed. How has something come up all of a sudden? Your Excellency, don't be upset. A woman clad in scanty and sensual garb rose from the bed to help him dress. If His Imperial Majesty has sent an urgent summons, he must have his reasons. Reasons my ass, it's so late. He doesn't give us a moment's rest. The woman pressed supple fingers to the elder's lips as she smiled wearily. Your Excellency shouldn't say such things. The walls have ears. What do I have to be scared of? I'm only saying these things to you. Elder Yu rolled his eyes. The current emperor does what he wants when he wants. This isn't the first time he's hauled us out in the dead of night. He's young and vigorous, but doesn't stop to think about our old bones. We can't handle this kind of excitement. Thank God the Majesty can't hear them. Your Excellency, what are you saying? The woman gently scolded. You're always so fierce with me. It's more than I can take. If your bones are old, what does that make mine? These words couldn't have been any more insincere. Elder Yu had quite obviously just withered, but he ate her words up, chuckling, as he pinched her powdered cheeks and kissed her nape once more. I'm off, he said. Little darling, I'll come see you again tomorrow. The woman giggled girlishly and saw him out, naturally making a great show of being unwilling to let him go. The moment the door closed, however, her face fell. Old trash, she spat. Can't get it up and looks like a goddamn toad that's taken a dung bath. I sure as hell wouldn't be serving you if you weren't so rich. Interesting way to see her true colors. Is she, important? She moved briskly behind a screen to bathe herself and change into clean clothes, then sat at the dressing table to redo her makeup. The woman had been at this brothel for many years, and long since left her youthful beauty behind. But she wasn't good in bed, and willing to put up with a great deal. She always did her best to serve her clients no matter how revolting she found them, never letting her honorable guests see any trace of her discomfort. That was why a number of older customers who were getting on in years still flocked to her. Those younger maidens are so fickle. They don't say anything, but you can see it in their eyes. You're the best, Young, honest and sincere. Any time Elder Yu and his ilk said such things to her, she was secretly cackling. She's funny. Young was neither honest nor sincere. After working in this kind of place for more than a decade, her face had become caked with thick makeup that she could never take off, and she had developed and refined her skills to perfection. With each arched brow and smiling glance, she concealed every hint of her true feelings, even when she was about to die from disgust. How else could she compete with those tender, supple, young bodies? Young faced the bronze mirror and carefully traced over the lips that Elder Yu had kissed of their color. She picked up a lip paper and pursed her lips over the small sheer of dark crimson silk as she sat to wait for her second client of the night to push open the door. She didn't wait long before the rosewood door creaked open. Young hastily pasted on her warmest expression, smiling as she looked up to greet her guest. Gongzayu. When she laid eyes on the newcomer's face, she seemed to lose her voice. After a few beats of silence, her vermilion lips parted around a terrible scream. I mean, I was wondering where the heck this chapter was going, since this wasn't any of the main characters, but damn. The man at her door was soaked in blood. This man was covered in bandages, and his eyes were thoroughly bloodshot. Scarlet drenched his hands, and a stickly eyeball was impaled on his... on a finger of his left hand. He glanced at her. "Don't scream," he rasped. When he slowly walked in and lifted his hand to stuff the eyeball back into his mouth. Ew, what the hell? And chewed a little before swallowing. Oh my god, no! What the hell, man? What is this? It seemed that for him, eating an eyeball was akin to imbibing a holy medicine. An expression of bliss suffused his face. He licked his lips and slowly turned to look at YUWU. Oh my god, ew. Is he gonna... Oh, please say we're not gonna read a chapter about this guy trying to eat this girl. I don't want to read that. I mean, I will, but I don't wanna. Scared out of her wits, YUWU slid from the embroidered bench with a thump. Oh wait, I kinda skipped a little bit. Let me go back. "Give me a pot of tea," he said. When YUWU made no move, his tone grew impatient. "Go get me a pot of tea." "Tea? What tea?" Scared out of her wits, YUWU slid from the embroidered bench with a thump, her body convulsing uncontrollably. She wanted to get back up, but her hands and feet were ice cold, completely unresponsive, incapable of aught but quaking. She shook for a spell, then let out a mad, blood-curdling scream, and staggered towards the door. "Help! Help me! There's a ghost! A ghost!" Oh, this is not gonna go well for her. Lady... Ugh. Elder Yu had just left, and as she thought of him now, he really did seem tall, mighty, and fierce. She began to shriek, hysterically, "Elder! Elder Yu!" YUWU burst through the door with a crash, and stumbling as she tried to run out. Strangely, the eyeball-eating man didn't move a mote, as if he didn't care where she ran off to. Blood-stained lips parted to reveal a mouth of flashing teeth, and he leered cruelly. "Elder!" she screamed. YUWU reached the stairway. When she saw the scene below, her legs gave out. Let me guess, there's probably a lot of people dead. She collapsed heavily without the strength to rise. At some point, the entire first floor, all the way to the wooden stairs, had been covered in corpses. Damn, Jesus! The only exception was the center of the brothel's hall, where a handful of prostitutes huddled together, terrified out of their wits, their pretty face awash in tears. An important official, Elder Yu of Chengxian Terrace, lay dead on one of the tables, 2 bloody holes where his eyes had once been. Oh my god. I'm not as disgusted but like I'm just still like a little disturbed thinking of it in my head. I'm guessing the eyes that he was eating was his. I mean, obviously, but like, still. YUWU shook her head again and again. No. No. Why hadn't the Imperial Guards noticed such a terrible event? Why? Why hadn't YUWU heard any screaming, when she had been only a wall away? A leisurely voice spoke from behind her, as if its owner had read her mind. It's not like the state-nation of Chonghua is the only one with secret techniques. If I don't want anyone to hear me, I have no shortage of methods to employ. Footsteps echoed. The man wrapped in bandages stepped out from the shadows, holding a teapot patterned with peonies. Tilting his head back, he poured a good half of it down his throat. He gurgled and swallowed, then carelessly tossed the pot away. It crashed to the floor and shattered. You don't need to be afraid. I won't kill you. Yet. The man stepped forward and grabbed Yunyang's hair, yanking her down the wooden stairs to throw her toward the other lucky survivors. Then he pulled up a chair, unhurried, sat down in front of them, and looked them over, one by one, through bloodshot eyes. After a long interval, he said, I want all of you to look at each other's face, and I'll give you an instant's time. With that, he waved a hand from where he sat, and the brothel's doors slammed shut. With another wave, 3 of the corpses rose from the ground, including Elder Yu's. They limped, stooped, and unsteadily toward the middle of the hall. Among the women, Yunyang was the only one who could still speak. It seemed the others were so frightened that their souls had fled their bodies. What do you... You mean to ask, what do I want with you? The man spoke for her, then laughed derisively. Didn't I already say it? I'm giving you an instant's time to look at each other's faces. But then what? Then what? The man carelessly stroked his chin, taking a moment to think. It was as if this extremely simple question had stumped him. At this point, the 3 corpses had drawn near the woman, and the eyeless Elder Yu reached out to take Yunyang's arm. No! Yunyang screamed in terror. Don't touch me! Don't touch me! He's scaring you, the man asked lazily, turning to look at Elder Yu. Old geezer, you're already dead. How come you haven't stopped groping people? Elder Yu looked up and emitted a gurgling noise, as if he were piteously trying to explain something to the man. The man snorted twice. With a wave of his hand, a burst of black qi swept out to strike Elder Yu in the forehead. The older man went limp and fell to the floor, spasming and convulsing before ultimately melting into a puddle of gore. So much babble, so annoying. The other 2 corpses seemed to sense something in this. Their footsteps became even stiffer, their movements more cautious. In the end, they slowly dragged 6 chains over and carefully placed them next to the brothel girls before bowing. Please, take a seat, the man said. Who the heck is this man? I swear to God. He just showed up out of, nowhere. Is he, a big enemy? The main evil guy? I don't know if I said this, so I'm just going to reread it. The other 2 corpses seemed to sense something in this. Their footsteps became even stiffer, their movements more cautious. In the end, they slowly dragged 6 chains over and carefully placed them next to the brothel girls before bowing. Please take a seat, the man said. If it weren't for the fact that he was covered in blood and had just orchestrated this entire evil scene, his tone could have been considered courteous. What do you need, a hand? The other girls were terrified out of their wits. They could hear what he said, yet they seemed to be frozen. Only after a long while did they muster the strength to clamber upright, shaking with fear. Each of them sat on a chair, unwilling to let either the bandaged man or those 2 corpses touch them. Who are you? Yunyang said, choking up. No need to be hasty, the man said. Once you do as I say, and answer a few of my questions, I'll let you know, of course. He thought for a moment. Oh, right. As a reminder, don't go hoping anyone will come save you. I've cast a barrier on the door. No one will find out about this anytime soon. He slowly turned his head, gazing towards the tightly closed brothel doors. He licked his lips, and the red in his eyes deepening, and laughed. Shall we get started? Perhaps Danmei Pavilion had drawn away the Imperial Guard's attention. Or perhaps the bandage man's secret techniques were as powerful as he claimed. For the time being, just as he said, not a soul knew what was happening in the north quarter of the city. Chonghwa's imperial capital was yet peaceful. I don't know why I said peaceful weird. High-level cultivators, each the occupant of a key ministry position, arrived on the imperial steps one after another. Moshi had already been waiting outside the throne room for a long time. Once Mulong Lian arrived, he refused to stand anywhere else, insisting on the spot right next to Moshi. In the wind and snow, Moshi's side profile seemed to even sharper and more grave. Mulong Lian glanced at him, then looked forward again. Xie-jun, have you really waited in this heavy snow all this time? He murmured mockingly. Moshi had no sound, quietly letting the snow blanket his shoulders. Well, of course he's gonna wait. He's very curious what the heck's going on with Gumong. Mulong Lian watched for a while, but when it was clear Moshi had no plans to respond, he spoke again. On that note, let me ask you something. When you lost your temper outside Danmei Pavilion, was it because you realized Gumong's mind might not really be damaged? Moshi closed his eyes, a faint darkness creeping over his face. I feel like that was obvious. Did he not say that loud enough for this guy to hear or something? But Mulong Lian had no tact. He continued without reservation. Would you really have choked him to death if no one had intervened? From what I know about you, I doubt it. That's the only thing I agree with Mulong Lian about. That will be the only thing. I don't think he would have actually, Moshi remained silent. The two of you. Finally, Moshi wheeled around and snapped. Mulong Lian, are you done? The snowy night was still, and the atmosphere outside the hall solemn. Xie-jun's outburst frightened every cultivator on the scene. They craned their necks to peer toward the source. Mulong Lian's pride had been dented, and his face flashed green. Good. Then pale, and burst. Right as he opened his mouth to say something, the red lacquer door opened, and a messenger official emerged to perform obeisance to these important officials. Honored Shenjun, His Imperial Majesty invites you in. Mulong Lian ground his teeth. You wait, he snarled. Moshi swept furiously forward, the dagger at his waist flashing as he left Mulong Lian behind. And that was the end of chapter 21 at page 238. And I'm gonna go on break. Ooh, I actually got a spoiler for myself. Well, like, art spoiler. I forgot what the art looked like. I was trying to see how long the next chapter was. But anyways, we're at page 238. And we'll pick back up on chapter 22 called Fighting Over Him. Make sure to actually let yourself rest, like stretch, get a drink or something. Because yeah. I feel like I'm really awkward when it comes to this. I don't really know what to say half the time. I do my best though. But anyways, I'll be back. See you guys soon. welcome back. I hope you guys had a nice break. And oh, I didn't even mean to do that to make myself wink, but oh my god. I think I just did it again. What the hell, man? Anyway, let's continue, okay? Why does she keep winking? Okay, we are on page 239, chapter 22, called Fighting Over Him. The great hall was filled with candlelight, and the stout coal brazier within burned merrily. Flanking the brazier were a pair of auspicious beast statues that had been enchanted to move. One functioned as a bellows, opening its mouth to shout. His Imperial Majesty awes the 9 provinces. As it made the fire blaze more brightly, the other shouted, His Imperial Majesty's fortune floods with the heavens, as it opens its mouth wide to inhale the Okay. I swear, if she keeps winking, or me, at myself, I swear to God. Anyway. Mulong Lian had gifted these 2 boot-licking golden beasts to the emperor, who loved them deeply, but Moshi's opinion was that only the mentally impaired could find joy in such garbage. At present, these 2 bootlickers had just finished their inhale and exhale routine, and they let out twin metallic belches before curling up by the brazier and falling still. Moshi glanced across the palace hall. Almost every Shenong Terrace healer was present. Gumong was restrained in the middle of the hall, guarded by the elite cultivators of the palace. Someone had put him under a hypnosis spell, and he was presently unconscious. The emperor was reclining on the pale yellow cushions of the imperial throne, wearing black robes and the beaded imperial crown. His face was jade-like in its beauty, his features exuding a clear willfulness. He had been resting with his eyes closed, but upon hearing the rustling of robes and hurried footsteps, he opened them and glanced down. Everyone's here? Your Imperial Majesty, Elder YUWU of Chengxian Terrace had not yet arrived, an official replied. The Emperor scoffed. The old geezer's getting on in years. Not even a snowy owl message can wake him. We think it's high time the leadership of Chengxian Terrace goes to someone more worthy. Oh wait, Elder YUWU, yes. Yeah, he not gonna show up. I think you should, not expect anything from him. Your Imperial Majesty, please calm yourself. Do you think we aren't calm? The Emperor rolled his eyes and sat up straight. With a wave of his pale yellow sleeves, he said, Gentlemen, take your seats. Our thanks to your Imperial Majesty, the entire hall intoned. We understand you're displeased to be called to the palace in the middle of the night. Perhaps you're even secretly cursing our names. One of the old nobles had barely sat down before a statement made him fall in haste to his knees. What is your Imperial Majesty saying? All right, get up. Don't give us that load about emperors needing to set an example for their subjects. It's so annoying. If you want to curse us, then curse away, as long as you don't let us hear it. You can curse to your heart's content. A few old nobles looked at each other. This youthful emperor of theirs was possessed of a strange and intractable temperament, which I don't know what was that, but which to a one they found unfathomable. Although he manifestly shared sentiments with the conservative senior nobles, to the point that he had removed Chonghua's greatest slave-born general not long after his ascension. His manner was consistently unorthodox, and he approached every situation as if determined to establish a new world order. "We know you want to get out of here, to go back to sleep, mollify your women, and visit your prostitutes," the Emperor said wearily. "We will be brief." I didn't expect him to bring up that. Okay. They were struck speechless. Same. This was simply absurd. Did any other emperor in the 9 provinces and 28 nations behave like this? "Elder of Shenong Terrace, this subject is here. Report on Gumong's condition tonight, as well as the result of the examination." "Understood." The leader of Shenong Terrace stepped forward, made an obeisance, and relayed his account of Gumong's spiritual energy, and had suddenly gone berserk. "Then," he said, "the spiritual core inside Gumong has indeed been broken. He has no spiritual energy, but..." Then where's his power coming from, huh? "But what?" the Emperor asked. The healer lowered his head. "We found powerful, malevolent qi in his chest." The Emperor mulled this over. "Malevolent qi?" "Yes. This official has determined that Gumong became frenzied due to this malevolent qi. Unfortunately, Chonghua has always followed the righteous path and has no contact with immoral demonic ways, so Shenong Terrace knowledge of such things is limited. All we can say for certain is that the Lao Kingdom must have done something to Gumong's heart, but to acquire farther details, I'm afraid we'd..." His expression was harrowed, his voice trailing off. "You don't need to be afraid," the Emperor said. "Just say it. No harm in that." The healer made farther obeisance. "I'm afraid we need to wait for Gumong to die in order to dissect his heart," he said. Did not expect that. They're not gonna kill him, right? "You mean, if we wanted to know what's wrong with him right now, we need to kill him right now?" The healer hesitated. "Yes." "Useless trash," the Emperor spat. The Shenong Terrace elder fell to his knees in terror. "Your Imperial Majesty, this official is incompetent." "You are indeed. What would we want with a corpse? He riddled with terraces of the Lao Kingdom's magic. So long as he's alive, we can study him. What use is he dead? We could bury him for the fun of it. Your Imperial Majesty." "Find another way." "But Gumong's mind is broken," the Shenong Terrace elder said. "Hardly any traces of those magic techniques remain, and I'm afraid..." It was that. Then Mulong Lian raised his voice. "Elder, whether Gumong is in fact mentally broken is still yet to be determined." He flicked his eyes over to cast Moshi a meaningful glance. "Isn't that right, Xie-jun?" Moshi said nothing. The elder swallowed with difficulty. It was already terrifying to be called useless trash by the Emperor, but now Wang Shujun was interrupting him, and the ruthless killer Xie-jun had gotten involved too. He felt like he was about to faint. Only after stuttering for several seconds did the elder manage to speak. "But this official has examined him multiple times. Gumong truly can't remember anything. His nature is completely bestial. Why would Xie-jun suggest that his mind be intact?" Moshi replied, "Gumong was unable to summon a demonic weapon." The Shenong Terrace elder let out a sigh of relief. Shiejun misunderstands, he said hastily. Although it is often said that summoning either holy or demonic weapons requires reciting an incantation, that isn't necessarily true. When its owner's emotions are exceptionally strong, or if they're in a very dangerous situation, the weapon may still be summoned, even without the incantation, so that doesn't really prove anything. Moshi listened without making a sound. His expression was frosty, but his eyes stared unblinkingly at the unconscious Gumong. Moshi looked perfectly unruffled, but I bet he is going crazy in his mind, maybe. No one had seen that his grip on the sandalwood armrest had left a hairline crack in the wood. Another noble spoke from among the group. Your Imperial Majesty, regardless of all else, Gumong is simply too dangerous. If not for the timely arrival of the guards today, I'm afraid he would have killed many more people. That's right! Think of the sins he's committed! Why has your Imperial Majesty continued to extend mercy? Why not kill him and be done with it? Wulong Lian's sort, who believed it was more interesting to keep people alive to torture them, were in the minority. The majority still held to primitive rules, an eye for an eye, a rule for a life. Many nobles had blood feuds with Gumong, and they couldn't let an opportunity like the one that had presented itself today pass them by. Cries of "Execute Gumong at once" filled the halls. The Emperor twirled a string of jade beads on his hand, then smashed it down on the sandalwood table. "What are you on yammering about?" he bellowed. The crowd fell silent at once. What a racket. First the harem won't shut up, and now it's the court's turn? We got a headache coming on. The Emperor pointed at the Shenong Terrace elder. You're nothing more than useless trash. If it weren't for Jiang Fuli's refusal to take your position, we would have fired you 1,000 times over. The Shenong Terrace elder could have cried. He was a difficult and unrewarding position to start. If it weren't for Jiang Fuli's refusal to take his position, he would have begged to resign 1,000 times over too. This job seems to suck. A lot. The Emperor cooled down somewhat and abruptly turned to another official. When is Jiang Fuli coming back? He asked. The official fell to his knees. Your Imperial Majesty, this official is also useless trash. This official doesn't know where Medicine Master Jiang has gone. Enough. You can get up. The Emperor waved a hand, impatient. At least you're not useless trash. Jiang Fuli is hard to keep track of. If you don't know, forget it. The official was close to tears. Many thanks to your Imperial Majesty. The Emperor looked up at his crowd of subjects. If we want to kill the traitor Gumong, we could have done so 2 years ago. We obviously have our own reasons for keeping him alive this far. It was clear that some nobles still wanted to speak. Hold your tongues, the Emperor warned testily. Let us finish. We are aware many of your friends and family have had the misfortune of falling by Gumong's hands, and that you want to deal with him once and for all. That way, your hatred will be avenged. However, aside from retribution, Chonghua wouldn't gain the slightest advantage from the vengeance, so we will keep Gumong alive. Though the marks left on him are too faint for Shenong Terrace to glean any useful information, Jiang Fuli might be able to accomplish what Shenong Terrace cannot. If there's anything Jiang Fuli cannot accomplish now, he might still be able to be in the future. We can wait. After a moment, he continued, his tone severe. The memories Gumong lost are useful. The spells on Gumong's body are useful. Gumong himself is far more useful alive than dead. Changhua has never cultivated the demonic path and only employs proper techniques to sustain our cultivation. However, if we fail to even try to understand them, if we refuse to make progress or to gain intelligence about the Lao Kingdom, he sneered, then we think, sooner or later, Changhua will be no match for Lao. The Emperor wanted to study the demonic path of the Lao Kingdom. An array of different expressions crossed the face of those gathered. But how can Changhua dabble in dark magic? Even if we do it to know our enemy, it's still outrageously dangerous. One of the nobles present was the elder brother of the Emperor's favorite concubine. Being exceptionally stupid, he couldn't help but ask, Your Imperial Majesty, if you want to understand the Lao Kingdom's black magic, can't you just take a few more captives? Why does it have to be this one? The Emperor rolled his eyes. Because the Lao Kingdom has already poured so much effort into him. He is unique. How hasn't that sheer idiocy of yours killed you yet? At that, everyone fell silent. After a spell, Mulong Lian rose and bowed to the throne. Since your Imperial Majesty has explained his reasoning to us, he said, this subject naturally won't object. It's only that. Speak. Today's events demonstrated that the malevolent qi in Gumong's body is extremely potent, capable of breaking through the protective barrier outside Laomei Pavilion. It is no longer safe to keep him there. He paused. If your Imperial Majesty can trust this subject, why not let me take Gumong into the custody of my manor? This subject will keep the strict watch over him as atonement for allowing this day's disaster to unfold. No. No. Bad idea. The Emperor thought this over, looking wary. Yes. Think that way. Feel that way, because I don't think it's gonna go well at all. This could be a solution. Many thanks to your Imperial Majesty, Mulong Lian said. Then, before he could finish, a low voice interjected. No, Moshi said, who had sat mute with his eyes closed all that time, finally spoke up from his sandalwood chair. He looked up at Wang Shujun and repeated his objection. No, you cannot take him away. Interesting. Ooh, where's this gonna go? At first, the Emperor was taken back. Then he stroked his chin with surprise and interest, looking between Wang Shujun and Xiejun. Mulong Lian stiffened, the corners of his mouth curling into a sneer. What special insight does Xiejun possess? Weren't you the one who thought Gumong might still have his memories? I did say that. Moshi rose, his height and the expression on his face both intimidating. So I will take him into custody. Mulong Lian's gaze sharpened. Why, exactly? Moshi was curt, because you can't beat him. You! Moshi turned towards the throne. Your Imperial Majesty, though Gumong has been stripped of much of his power, if he were to go berserk again, he would prove to be as formidable as he was today. Also, there is art, and I'm guessing it's the Emperor. He looks... I didn't expect the art to be of him smiling, and I also didn't expect him to look so young, honestly. Was it said that he was young? Oh, sorry, I was hearing a dog in the background. I couldn't tell if it was my cat or not. You're not bad looking, but anyway. That sounds reasonable. You're aware of his martial powers. Oh, prowess. Also, hold on. I'm gonna turn on the light. It's starting to get darker in my room and it's not even nighttime. Somehow, I popped my leg by my hip. You're aware of his martial prowess. In terms of one-on-one fighting, few in Changhua could beat him, Moshi said, cool and steady. I ask your Imperial Majesty to send Gumong to Xie Manor. I will keep him under total control and prevent him from harming your Imperial Majesty or any other individual in Changhua ever again. After a moment, Mulang Lian smiled contemptuously. Xie-jun uses such pretty language, but are we really supposed to believe that you mean to protect Changhua and his Imperial Majesty? What are you implying? Moshi asked. What am I implying? Mulang Lian tilted his pale face as he narrowed his eyes. Does Xie-jun truly not understand what I mean? He lowered his chin and gestured in Gumong's direction. By taking him in, wouldn't you only be trying to protect him? What nonsense is this? Moshi's face instantly darkened. Gumong nearly died at my hand not hours ago. You think I'm protecting him? What was that? Nearly. Mulang Lian shot him a cool, fluid glance. He's still alive, isn't he? Besides, right outside this hall, when I asked whether you truly wanted to choke Gumong to death with your own hands, did you answer? Moshi replied with barely suppressed rage. Why should I tell you? Whether you wanted to, whether you're willing, yes. Why should you tell me? Your relationship with him, your private affairs, why should they be shared with anyone else? My fellow gentlemen are quite forgetful. So why don't I give you all a reminder? Mulang Lian's eyes glinted. All those years ago, didn't Xie-jun's friendship with General Gu transcend class? This guy. He just really hates these two, huh? This proclamation left the crowd not shocked so much at a loss for words. Moshi and Gumong had been inseparably close. Everyone knew this. However, it was also common knowledge that Gumong had nearly stabbed Moshi to death after defecting. Since that stab, their relationship had long since passed the tipping point. Everyone was embarrassed. Some people laughed awkwardly without agreeing. Someone even said, Wang Shujun, that was ages ago. What more is there to say? But Mulang Lian seemed to have expected this response. He snorted indolently, the corners of his lips curving more dangerously. All right, then I won't speak more on it. He met Moshi's gaze again, smirking. Let me ask Xie-jun a question. You've always been ascetic and proper, unsullied by houses of pleasures. So I dare say, what were you after when you secretly visited Laomei Pavilion in search of Gumong? Oh, he knew! He knew! Wait. He did it twice, though. Well, kind of twice. He looked for him in the shed, so which moment is he talking about? I'm just curious, anyway. Moshi's heart pounded. So that attendant had indeed reported his visit to Laomei Pavilion to Gumong, but he didn't intend to deny it. Turning back, his dark eyes away, he said, Jesus. He didn't say Jesus. Anyway, for revenge. What else? If it was for revenge, why did you personally offer him water to drink and food to eat? Wulong Lian savored each word as he hissed them out like a venomous snake. Could it be that seeing your Gumong Gaga in pain hurt you? If they hadn't been in a place of Chonghua with Emperor watching mere feet away, Moshi would have pelted Wulong Lian with a barrage of fireballs. It was entirely possible that Wulong Lian's head would have been smashed right off. What the hell is wrong with you? Moshi said angrily. You followed me? Wulong Lian scoffed. Like I would need to follow you. Laomei Pavilion belongs to me, doesn't it? Moreover, you have only yourself to blame. Could it be that you were afraid people would find out? As their argument grew heated, one of the nobles tried to intervene. Let it go, Xie-jun has always been cold of face but kind of heart. He was just giving some water to someone dying of thirst. Wangshu-jun, why be so aggressive? Just some water? Wulong Lian's eyes flashed with a chilling light. Ridiculous. In matters of vengeance, it would be rare enough for someone to resist kicking an already fallen opponent. And here, Xie-jun is offering him aid in a time of need? Such depths of moral righteousness have truly opened my eyes. He bent toward the throne. Your Imperial Majesty may deny my request to take custody of Gumong, but Xie-jun must not be allowed to take him back to his manor. I'm kind of hoping he does, but that's just me. It was rare for the Emperor to see Moshi and Wulong Lian argue so heatedly at court. Headache forgotten, he watched with rapt interest. After receiving this request from Wulong Lian, he found himself undecided. Well, he muttered. The Emperor's hesitation compelled Wulong Lian to continue. Xie-jun gave Gumong water even when he was confined at Laomei Pavilion. If Xie-jun were to take Gumong into his home, who knows what else he would give him? He has a really great imagination, huh? This is him thinking these things, Jesus. These words contained a sly hint of innuendo within their derision. Some of the nobles thought Wulong Lian was going too far, and they shot meaningful glances his way in an attempt to get him to shut up. If only that worked. Visiting male prostitutes didn't raise eyebrows in Chonghua, but actual relationships between two men were wholly forbidden. Yeah, sadly. This was especially true for pure-blooded nobles like Moshi. The spiritual energy in their lineage was far too precious to waste. The righteous choice for such men was to carry on their bloodline, so Chonghua forbade them from engaging in unseemly affairs. Furthermore, how could an aloof, noble person like Xie-jun associate in such a way with filthy, low-born trash like Gumong? The nobles felt this strained belief. They thought that Wulong Lian had gotten rather too carried away in this desire. Oh my god. Got carried away in his desire to slander his rival. Sorry, I lost my place for a second. I need to do better, Jesus, I swear. Only Moshi, the victim of slander himself, knew the jab had landed. Xie-jun, you wouldn't want to raise any questions about your allegiance, Wulong Lian drawled. You'd best stop meddling. After a breath, Moshi turned his expression hostile. He glared at Wulong Lian to ask, and if I refuse? I really like Moshi. Also, hold on. I want to see how many pages I read. It wasn't, hold on. I'm not afraid anymore. 18? Oh. I didn't realize we got that far. Wait, no. No, we stopped at chapter 18, so I was that right. Okay, chapter 19. So 206, and we're at 250. Ooh. Nice. That's a lot more pages than I thought. Ah, loving that. Okay. Okay. We just ended chapter 22 at page 252. We are now on chapter 23 called Prize. Is it the way I'm like looking at the camera or something that my eyes just want to like wink? Sorry, I got distracted. Anyway, Mulong Lian lazily rolled his eyes. Without even turning to look, he smirked and said, "Then Xiejun can anticipate farther conflict with this lord." Mulong Lian, shift in self-address, was a transparent attempt to intimidate Moshi with this Lord Imperial bloodline. There were a few... Wait. Moshi was fully aware of this. His expression grew frostier, and his aura was more terrifying. There were a few beats of silence in the palace hall, a hush that was broken when Moshi next spoke. "Remember this. Gumong carries countless secrets and owes countless blood debts. But because of your selfishness, this incident occurred while he was in your custody." Moshi paused, his gaze darkening like ice as it shattered. "I will not let you have him. If Wang Shujun has more to say, I wait with bated breath." You. Not gonna lie though, Moshi kinda does have you with that one. "Very well." Oh wait, no. "Of these two people, one was a prince of the aristocrat. Oh my god. Was a prince of the aristocracy, while the other was a general of the military. Their exchanged glance flashed like lightning, and disappeared just as quickly. Mulong Lian's face was almost translucent in its pallor, the clenching of his jaw extraordinarily stark against his skin. He ground his teeth for a long moment before barking with laughter. "Very well. You still dare to claim you're not protecting him. You dare to claim you hate him." Mulong Lian's eyes glinted. Trying to change the page, but I'm struggling. Okay, there we go. "Poison feather." Wait, what? Mulong Lian's eyes glinted like poison feather wine. Footnote, by the way. Shenju wine made poisonous with the touch of the mythological Shen Nao's feather. Why am I stuttering so much? And for some reason I have the song Sweet Lies from EXO stuck in my head. I love that song. Anyway, that has nothing to do with this. Anyway. And his smile tightened on his face. "Moshi, haven't you noticed? What you're saying to this lord right now is exactly what Gumong said when you were the one floundering and he was shielding you." Huh? Trying to remember that. Moshi looked down at Mulong Lian calmly, something subtle in his expression. "To claim that you hate Gumong is utterly laughable. If he is handed to you today, sooner or later, calamity will befall Changhua. Unexpectedly, Moshi started smiling as well. His smile was almost upsettingly handsome, but his eyes were terribly cold. How did Gumong ever protect me? I only know that he left a scar on my chest that will never fade. I only remember that he tried to kill me. I hate him. Moshi spoke evenly, his eyes as clear as fresh fallen snow. You say he protected me. My apologies, Wangshujun, but that happened so long ago. This general doesn't even remember anymore. He turned and took a knee before the imperial throne and lowered his gaze. Your Imperial Majesty, none in Changhua knew Gumong's spells better than I. Moreover, Wang Shujun has failed in his supervisory duties, which resulted in today's disaster. I request to be allowed to detain Gumong and enforce stricter scrutiny upon him in my manner. Mulong Lian turned. Moshi, you've been working tirelessly to protect him from the moment you were returned, he snapped. What exactly are you planning? Moshi chose not to dignify Mulong Lian with any further response. The Emperor thought it over. I hope he allows him. Just as he was about to speak, an Imperial guard sprinted to the... Before I continue, are they going to start talking about that incident that happened in the chapter before the last one we read? The guard sprinted to the door and whispered anxiously to the herald. The herald's expression instantly changed as he hurried deferentially up to the throne. Your Majesty, your Imperial Majesty, an urgent report from the capital. The Emperor nearly kicked over the table. This is the second time tonight. What now? The herald's face was drained of color. There's been a massacre at the Mansion of Beauties in the northern quarter. Almost everyone was killed, including official YUWU Chengshan Terrace. What? The crowd was shocked. Even the Emperor rose shot from his throne, wide-eyed. Who is responsible? No one knows. By the time Imperial Guard discovered the situation at the mansion, the Imperial had escaped. Oh, the criminal, not the Imperial. They even left a message on the wall. What message? The official was still petrified, and he stammered out his answer. This humble one is lonely, sincerely seeking wives. This humble one is lonely and sincerely seeking wives? The Emperor repeated it twice, his temper flaring. What nonsense! What deranged old bachelor would write this kind of thing and murder a bunch of people? Does he want to kill, or does he want women? He paused, and when he spoke again, it was in a still more irritable tone. Are there no other clues? Not yet. The Emperor once more resorted to his favorite catchphrase. Useless trash. He sank back against the throne and collected himself for a while. His lashes fluttered as his attention fell again on Moshi and Mulong Lian. An idea had popped into his head. Why do I have a bad feeling about this idea of his? The matter of Gumong will temporarily set aside. The Emperor sat up slowly as he spoke. This Mansion of Beauties incident had come up at an inopportune time. An opportune time, my god, I'm such an idiot. Anyway. The Emperor spoke. This mansion of... Where the heck am I? Of these two men fighting in front of the hall for control of Gumong, one was a blood relative, and the other an important subject. Nothing good could come of refusing either. This case was the perfect opportunity. He could toss the responsibility of decision to a third party. He doesn't want to take the responsibility of this at all, huh? Well, I did just say that, but I mean, I get it, but like, he is the Emperor, so a little different. An atrocity such as this, within the imperial capital, is an insult that cannot be borne. We command the two of you to go forth and investigate at once. Whoever catches the culprit first may return to ask us for Gumong. Your Imperial Majesty intends to make him a prize? Mulong Lian asked. The Emperor glanced at him. You two are already at each other's throats merely to settle a personal grudge. Or will he not suffice? Mulong Lian smiled. He will. However, while I do this for revenge, Xie Jun's motives are yet unknown. Enough, Mulong Lian. Xie Jun has always been a gentleman. Stop throwing around accusations over some petty grievances. The Emperor impatiently waved a hand to cut him off, then pointed at Gumong, asleep within Shenong Terrace's shield array. Xie Jun, we also want to see which of you possesses the greater skill, he said. If you have no objections, then let it be done. I accept, Moshi said. I'm actually curious how this is going to go. This sounds kind of fun. The game part, anyway. The winning part. I mean, yeah, I do want Moshi to, win him, but also that kind of sounds weird saying that or thinking that. But I mean, he'd be better hands with Moshi than Mulong Lian. Mulong Lian, oh my god, he's just something. He's something. Then you should get on with it. The Emperor spun the beads in his hand. Whoever wins can take him away. Thus, the still insensible Gumong became the insensitive for these two nobles, lords, to crack the case. Mulong Lian wanted him to suffer, whereas Moshi wanted... Forget it. No, don't forget it. I want to know what the thought was going to finish to. He didn't know what he ought to do after bringing Gumong back to his manor either, nor, at present, was it something he ought to think about. Inside the Mansion of Beauties, Moshi, clad in a set of black imperial commander robes, stood with his hands clasped behind his back, gazing at the words scrawled on the wall in fresh blood. Oh my... It's a good thing this is the last chapter, otherwise I think I'm just going to continue messing up on my words. Also, I didn't realize I read that many pages. And I still have so many left, too. I'm trying to find my place. Inside the Mansion of Beauties, Moshi's clad in a set of black Imperial Commander robes, stood with his hands clasped behind his back, gazing at the words scrawled on the wall in fresh blood. At the Emperor's command, the healers from Shenong Terrace were handling the corpse that had died tragic deaths within the brothel, while Moshi and Mulong Lian had accompanied them to investigate the matter and catch the killer. Among the dead are 14 prostitutes, 37 clients, and 7 mansion employees. So... I'm not going to even try to do the math. I was going to try to do that. I'm not quick at that. One of the healers was giving Moshi the casualty reports. After cross-referencing with the directory, we determined that 5 prostitutes are missing. Mulong Lian frowned. Missing? Yes. Seeing as everyone in the brothel was killed, and even official YUWU couldn't escape, those 5 prostitutes can't have gotten away on their own. It's likely that the killer took them away. Mulong Lian said thoughtfully. Oh, I didn't even realize it was him thinking. I just didn't think he was that smart, honestly. Why did the killer take those 5? Is he really taking women captive to be his wives? Moshi walked to the side of the bloodstained staircase, where a few healers were handling Elder Yu's corpse. As he approached, they all performed obeisance. Xie-jun. What traces of magic remains on Elder Yu's body? Xie-jun. They are similar, but not identical to the black magic cells of the Lao Kingdom. Please, come take a look. As the healer spoke, he lifted a corner of the cloth covering the corpse. Official Yu's eyes have been taken and his heart dug out. The flesh around the wounds had festered with unnatural speed, faster than injuries caused by ordinary weapons. In fact, it seems like a cannibalistic, vengeful ghost. Moshi finished with a frown. Yes, it does look like the work of a vengeful ghost. Moshi's gaze swept over the evidence of Elder Yu's violent demise. The two hollows of his eyes and the hole in his chest had begun to seep black liquid, but vengeful ghosts were rarely lucid, writing something like, "This humble one is lonely, sincerely seeking wives." Didn't seem like the behavior of a vengeful ghost. As he thought, his gaze slowly traveled down, stopping at the Elder Yu's mutilated chest. Are the other bodies like this as well? The healer flipped through the records and shook his head. No. Only 17 people had their eyes and hearts dug out. Show me the names. The first one who had died this way was Elder Yu. Moshi wasn't familiar with all the names that followed, but those he did know were young masters from influential families. The ones who lost their hearts were all cultivators? We can't yet be sure, but that seems to be the case. A cultivator's heart was where their spiritual core resided, and after hearts, eyes were the strongest source of spiritual energy. When devoured by vengeful ghosts and demons, these organs could serve as potent cultivation amplifiers. Moshi lowered his head, murmuring to himself in thought. At this moment, an Imperial guard pushed open the door. He had been running hard, and despite the cold outside, sweat beaded his forehead. "Shia-jun, wong. Which there's a footnote, but I thought that was stuttering, but I guess not. Wong is the Chinese onomatopoeia for barking dogs. So is he just saying, "Shia-jun, bark, bark, bark"? Wulong Lian flicked his peach blossom eyes to the side, smiling with keen interest. Wong, why are you barking? Are you calling our Shia-jun a dog? The guard swallowed. Wong Shijun. Wulong Lian's smile vanished. Catch your fucking breath before you speak. Oh, I get it. He was trying to call for Wulong Lian, but he was messing up, so he kept saying Wong. Also, for some reason, Wulong Lian, and I don't know if I said this before, reminds me of Shime for some reason. I don't know, that's who I think of. Yes, sir, the Imperial Guard hastily replied. There's been a new development. After Gumong went berserk, the warning barrier at Danmei Pavilion was broken. Just now when the manager was accounting for the pavilion's occupants, they discovered someone missing. Wulong Lian bristled and grabbed the guard by the lapels. What happened? They checked 3 times and said that despite the chaos, no one escaped. How is someone missing? The guard didn't get a chance to respond before another team rushed over through the snowy night on horseback. As it turned out, they were escorting Madame Qing, manager of Danmei Pavilion. Ah, yeah, the woman that was whipping? Something to, Gumong. She fell to her knees as soon as she dismounted, shivering on the ground. Wang Shujun, this servant deserves death! This servant deserves death! Wulong Lian was about to pass out from pure rage. If you want to die so badly, do it later. First, tell me clearly, are you blind or are you stupid? When you took attendance the first 3 times, you said no one was missing. So how is that no longer the case? Explain. Wang Shujun, please, forgive me, she sobbed. The servant was only counting the prostitutes and courtesans, and she attentively checked on them so many times. They were all present and accounted for, but the servant forgot. What did you forget? Madame Chin wailed. The servant forgot there was a bedridden cook in the kitchen side room. A cook? Wulong Lian was stumped. Yes. A month ago, when you punished Gumong to confinement and reflection and reduced his meals, he couldn't stand the hunger and went to the kitchen to steal food, Madame Chin cried. That cook bumped into him and hit and cursed him, but he set off Gumong's sword array and was cut to ribbons. Oh. Oh, okay. I thought this guy died when I said that, but everyone was silent. The doctor said those wounds required at least a few months of bed rest, so at first, I didn't expect that he could possibly do anything. How could I guess that he would sneak out when Gumong broke the barrier? Useless trash. Wulong Lian was infuriated. Wait, if Wulong Lian said that, him and his, was it cousin? Benper? Kind of similar with their speech. He kicked Madame Chin in the chest and sent her flying into the swirling snow. Okay, buddy. No. Pointing at her, he bellowed, Do you know what manner of disaster you've unleashed? Honestly, I don't know. I'm kind of confused too. Am I not understanding like I should be? All the servants and prostitutes of Laomei Pavilion were prisoners who harbored deep loathing for Chonghua. Although their cores were destroyed when they entered the pavilion, every country had their arcane secrets. It was said that there had once been a black magic practitioner from the Lao Kingdom who could even repair shattered cores, so a great many barriers were layered around Laomei Pavilion. No one could have predicted that Gumong's rampage would let him break through every single one of those barriers. Moreover, it would have been one thing for them to be broken, but then a bedridden man had suddenly jumped up and taken the opportunity to escape, and the manager had just only found out now. Even worse, not long after his cook disappeared, there had been a bloody massacre in which almost 100 citizens of the capital had lost their lives. Well, I'm glad Mulan. Wait. So the place opened up because of Gumong's rampage. Which made someone escape. Which means the person who killed people was probably the one that did this massacre. Yeah, I know. I'm just working it out in my brain, making sure I understand everything. Okay. If the Emperor were to take a closer look at this, who would he blame? None other than Wulong Lian. Despite himself, a red flush stained Wulong Lian's pale face. He felt nearly faint. Gumong, he raged. Once again, it's all your fault. He returned on his heel. Go get that cook's file and bring it to me to examine. Where did he come from? How old is he? What's his life history? I need to know every detail, down to how many women he's bedded. Does he need to know that? Hurry up. Yes, staggering to her feet, the madam mounted her horse and galloped away in a panic. Shaking out his sleeves, Wulong Lian returned to the mansion of beauties in an anxious fury. He tilted his head and stared, panting, at the words written on the wall. This humble one is lonely, sincerely seeking wives. One of Wulong Lian's personal attendants found himself compelled to offer a suggestion. My lord. What do you want? Wulong Lian snapped, irascible as ever. This isn't right. Mind a jumble, Wulong Lian was briefly bewildered. What's not right? Gumong injured that cook a month ago, and now Gumong's gone berserk, and the cook took the chance to escape. The attendant's voice lowered as he glanced cautiously at Mulonglian. Don't you think it's a little too much of a coincidence? He has a point. Mulonglian considered this, narrowing his eyes. You're saying that the cook planned this? That he made use of guqin? Or, what if guqin wasn't the one being used? If you look at all the evidence, my lord, should we not imagine the worst? Is it not possible that guqin and the cook planned all this together? For some reason, I don't believe that, but okay. Mulonglian's heart tightened. What country was the injured cook captured from? The attendant had been worried for precisely this reason. He lowered his head. The Lao Kingdom. So that cook was another dog bastard from the Lao Kingdom. Mulonglian's back was drenched in cold sweat. At this moment, guqin was still in the palace. It was better to be safe than sorry. If guqin really had devised some unknown scheme with that cook, and if the two of them were working together to create a diversion and lure the tiger from the mountain, then... The blood drained from Mulonglian's face. After a breath, he strode out into the snow. Summon my golden-winged snow Pegasus. Never thought I'd be reading that word. Was Pegasus already talked about in this book? I must go to the palace at once to see Imperial Majesty. Well, that's the end of chapter 23 on page 262. What if the cook was the one that planned this whole thing? Since it looks so impossible, I'm going to that direction. Well, at least it looks impossible to them. That's my guess. But yeah, anyway. We are done for today. I hope you enjoyed the story. I'm enjoying how the story is progressing. I'm like actually very curious what the heck is going on. But yeah. I'll see you guys next time. Bye.